everybody, good afternoon. This is Jean here, Jean Truelove from Truelove Quilts for You. I'm coming to you from my wooded forest glade. There's a big truck coming over the bridge. Yeah, we're really enjoying being outside. Maxwell was cutting the grass again. I think one of the last videos I put up he was. We have a lot of property here, but I came into this lovely area. Again, we're trying to clear out this debris. My husband, the other day, I was in my sewing room and I heard this almighty crash. He cut down this massive tree here, sitting on the stump. We're trying to clean it up. We're getting there. We're getting there. We're going to put a pretty ground cover to more bring in this because this is it's a wooded little area here. But yeah, I just love to come down and sit before the mosquitoes come out because the creek is right there. But I'm working on my block party, as you know, my Jean's block party 2021. And this week, or this time that I'm doing it, it's block number 12. And again, I think I explained in one of my last videos. We haven't done 12 blocks. I'm doing my blocks around my quilt. I'm now just concentrating on doing some more sampler blocks to give you an idea of some more skill, some more methods. As our pieces get a little bit smaller, it's still a beginner quilt. It's I've come back to my original. If you look at my introduction, you knew that we were working with 2 grid, 3 grid, and 4 grid in a small 6.5 inch square. This would technically be, to a certain extent, a 4 grid. Again, I'll put a picture up of my grid, which means there are 1.5 inch units. Now our 4 patch, one of the very simplest blocks that we made, 4 pieces, 4 fabrics, that was a 3.5 inch square, right? Or 3 inch square, no, 3.5 inch square. This is 1.5 inches. Even it is still a beginner sampler quilt that I'm showing you step by step. We're just working with smaller units. Now this I've done my tutorial on this block here. Again, I'll take a picture of it. It sort of ends up a star. We haven't done any star blocks. I have a couple to come, a true looking star, but it becomes a star, this one right here, not these two. And I'll tell you why, because of the contrast. I always say that. Your contrast is very important. There are 5 different fabrics in this small block. I used 5 different fabrics. The center block, the 2 flying geese, and the corners here, okay? I've used 1, 2, 3, 4, oh wait a minute. 1, 2, 3, 4 different fabrics, 4 different fabrics in this block here. Sorry, last week's was 5 different fabrics. This week's is 4 different fabrics. But as you can see, they've all taken on a different look, right? This one is this is the one I've done the tutorial on. This one I messed up. I was tired or something, and I messed up my flying geese unit. It was a 4 at a time that we've done. If you have done our flying geese border, you're making flying geese coming out your wazoo, right? This one I messed up, but I'm going to still put that. It measures 6.5 inch finished. I mean 6 inch finished. I'm still going to use that, put that in my quilt because it's pretty, even though I messed it up. And I'll take a picture of it, but I don't care. It's still very pretty. Again, the contrast is not there. You don't really see the fabric on that. This one, again, the contrast is slightly muddier, so you don't see the contrast. So this is what I've done a tutorial on. This was my sample and I quite liked it. That one I thought, oh, I'll do a tutorial. I started doing a tutorial on that and I did all of the measurements and I got it wrong. I'll show you that though. But this is our 4 grid. This is our quilt for this time here. Again, I'm suggesting to you that when you're doing these sampler blocks, you pull a couple of different fabrics. Pull some fabrics out of your stash or out of the fabric selection that you've made for your quilt and make a few of them, because we are going to have to be putting quite a few blocks around our quilt, my quilt. I think one of the last videos I'm sort of growing my quilt with my flying geese That was 72 inches square. And I'm going to be needing, again, if you're new here, I'm going to be needing about 40 or 44, more or less, blocks to put around my quilt. And then I'm just going to put a small border and it will be done. But I was saying in one of my last videos, it's summertime. I'm just, the hardest part is done. If you wanted to finish your quilt at that point after the flying geese, super. I'm going to be growing my quilt yet again to make it, what it be? I don't know, 72, 92, 96, something like that, maybe a little bit bigger. It's a decent sized quilt. Again, I had mentioned several videos ago, if you wanted to make your quilt more of a rectangle and you like the idea of sampler blocks, but you're done with the width, just add them on the top and add them on the bottom, or add 2 rows on the top. Again, this whole process, this whole tutorial that I'm doing is trying to have you beginners step out of a comfort zone to following patterns and, you know, freaking out like, oh, it doesn't fit. You make it fit. That's the whole point. Now again, the thing with this also is, as one of my last videos, these are busy fabrics. These are bright fabrics. I'm using K-facet fabrics, which can be very, very bright and very saturated. They all sort of look the same. With all due respect to K-facet, they're bright, and so I like the idea, again, going back to my quilt that I put together, to use the sashing to break up those blocks. I personally don't love a sampler quilt where it's block after block after block. Just it's too much for my brain. I need to have the sashing to break it up. So, but that's to come. That's to come down the road when we're putting my quilt together. We're going to be putting the blocks on the one side, 2 sides, top and bottom, and then adding a small border. But for now, just blocks. These are my blocks that I've made. Block 12, for lack of better whatever. I'm just calling it that. Oh, my pretty birds. I love sitting out here. It's real nice. I don't love, no, I shouldn't say that. I love the sun, but it gets too hot. I like the winter time the best. I'm not a sun person. My kids will attest to that. I like the mountains, and I like lakes and streams, rivers. I don't love the beach. Funny that. Some of my kids don't either. They're more mountain people, and coming into like a forest, the woods. I don't know, sand. I get all itchy and I get hot. And anyway, I like it. I like it in the forest here. I like it in the woods. It's real nice. We're very blessed. So nice. So I thought I'd bring my little sewing out to you here. Block number 12. I hope you enjoy this, folks. All right, take care. See ya. Bye-bye. Love from the Trueloves. So we are on to block number 12, or however many, because I'm doing it sort of multiples. And this time I really messed up, and I have 3 of them going. Oh boy, I should have stopped. But anyway, let me just explain what it is. There are a lot of fabrics where we need some high contrast, and I'll show you why you need a high contrast fabric, because I really messed up one whole block and I've had to do it over again. What I don't do for you people, oh my word, I you know, I do this, right? Oh, I did it before and I got it all wrong. Oh my word, I'll show you that in a moment. Anyway, this is what we're needing, and this is what we are working with. If you remember the beginning of our block party, we have different grids, right? Well, we are working with a four grid, okay, which is 4 by 4, 16. Now we don't have, well, we do have lots of fabric, but we're constructing this as a 9 patch. But I want to show you my sort of prototype and why it would be sort of classified as a 4 grid. Okay, here's my finished sample block that I've done. So it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 units constructed as a 9 patch. But if we actually would break this little block down here, we would have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Just like our 4 grid, 4 by 4. Yet it's constructed as a 9 patch, but with some smaller fabric units that we're using here. This is our block, what we're going to be using at my proper cutting measurements. What I did is, I guess I was tired, but I'm glad I sort of made the mistake, because I don't love this. I don't love this. What I had done is I cut this properly, I cut that properly, I cut that improperly, and I cut that improperly. And then when I went to put the block together, my flying geese units, 4 at a time, were all messed up. I had to trim them down and and it didn't work, and my points were off. I had like ½ an inch there. I had to trim it down. Plus, so this is wrong. Plus, I don't love the contrast. There's not enough contrast for my flying geese. It's okay, and I'm going to be using this block in my quilt because I'm not going to let it go to waste, because it's pretty. I'm not bothered that that point doesn't match, and it sort of doesn't match all over the place, so I'm fine with it. But what I did is I cut that 4 1/2 and 2 7/8. Wrong. So that was my practice that I did, and I got it right this time here with these measurements, okay, with these directions. So I have this so you can keep track, okay? My fabric A on my block, which hopefully you'll have seen in the beginning, my fabric A, which is cut 3 1/2 inches square, is this large piece in the middle, okay? That is my fabric A. My fabric B, which I'm cutting 2 inches square here, are my 4 corners, okay? Fabric B is you're cutting 4 2-inch squares. My fabric C is sort of the goose, the point of my flying geese that we're making 4 at a time. But for this skill, we're just cutting, just like we did all our other flying geese, we're cutting one large piece, and then smaller pieces. So we're making 4 at a time. Now again, when I did my flying geese 4 at a time, what I did is, you can watch the full tutorial, but you will see what I did. You have to mark with your marking pen, diagonal to diagonal, right there on the diagonal, holding your fabric nice and tight. Oops, it would help. So your diagonal line goes right into the corners there. I'm marking all 4 of them, and again, you can refer back to that tutorial, how to make our 4 at a time flying geese. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then it's a matter of just putting our block together as a simple 9 patch. But I'll be back. flying geese units here, and this is a simple 9 patch. All right, so we take our fabric A, our 3.5, oops, got to put that on there, our 3.5 inch square, that goes in the middle there. And here's my sample block. This is this block here. And then our 4 flying geese units. And I'm going to put, I believe, I'm going to put the point into the center for my flying geese. What I could do is you can, if you don't want to have it like that, with the whatever contrast, you could have your flying geese going out like this. So you could have a whole different block. It almost looks like a square within a square. But I quite like the fact that I have my flying geese pointing inwards on that point. And then we have our last 4 corner units here, our 2-inch squares. And there will be my block. Now, as you can see, this one is sort of made a star pattern, which I quite like. You can't really see the star pattern on there because my contrast isn't quite as high contrast. So you can work with your contrasting fabrics in order to get that lovely star shape. And again, I'm just going to take this over, and I'm going to, I'm not cutting off my dog ears on this side here. And as you know, when I did my flying geese, this dog ear here sort of just goes right into that seam, so I'm not bothered, and that goes nice square across there to reinforce that top seam there. So I'm going to go over to my sewing machine and just like a simple 9 patch, put this block together. As you know, I like to have everything right in front of me. You're going to get tired of this, of seeing me do this, but it's a good practice. So this ends up 2 inches, and there's our 2-inch square. So I'm putting the pretty side over to the pretty side like that. Don't worry about that dog ear. In fact, that gives me a nice indication where I can put my needle down and start to sew. That's my perfect 1/4 inch. And right off. And then I'll do the other side exactly the same. Pretty side. But now I'm going to turn it around so I can sew right down to that dog ear. Oops. Always make sure your machine is working nice and properly. And right off into that intersection where that dog ear is. And that gives you the perfect 1/4 inch. As you can see, that perfect 1/4 inch, which will go right into the seam there. I'm going to do my next unit, my center square, with my geese pointing inwards. And again, I'm sewing it on this. Oh, this fabric is very frayy. I'm going to sew it on this side so I can see where that seam is. My perfect 1/4 inch. So I don't cut off that point. I can sort of feel and see where that point is, and then just continue along like that. And there's my point. And then I'm going to do this side, turn it around here. Do the exact same thing. I can sort of feel and see where that point is. It's a nice 1/4 inch. And there's my point. And then my bottom. Oh, look, oh no. Oh yeah, I made a mistake on that one. So this one I have to turn over. Do you see what I did there? I made a mistake. I sewed it like that. Isn't that funny? But I put it like this. So there. So either way I do it. So this one goes that way. Isn't that funny? Again, your orientation. You have to be careful with your orientation when you actually go to put it in your block. Sewing it's the exact way, but when you go to orient it, it's funny that. And my 2-inch. And right there. So now, that's it. So now, by all means, if you wanted to at this point, my geese are going in like that, okay? By all means, if you wanted to, you can go over and to your ironing board and iron this. I don't find it necessary. What I do is you can see my top seams are wanting to go out, this seam, so just very gently finger press that over like that. And then this seam here is wanting to go in. Again, I always let my fabric tell me pretty much where it wants to go for the most part. So I just finger press that, like so. And then I'm going to put the pretty side with my point in to the pretty side. Put that over there. And then I can make sure that my seams are nested. This one is going that way, and that one is going that way. And you see that dog ear? That's an indication where I can put my needle right down there. I know it's 1/4 of an inch, and just go along like that. This flying geese point here, I can feel my seam there nesting lovely, coming right along without cutting off that flying geese. Nest that seam there, and then I'm going to aim right for this dog-eared point right there. Pinch and pull, and there's my lovely unit right there. A bunch of frays. And then this one, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to finger press this outwards, making sure my points are going in. Turn it around, and then find my nested seam there, my 1/4 inch. One seam's going one way, my other's going the other way. Find this one over here. I can see my point, and then the seam is going that way. And then right off. Pinch and pull. Now hopefully I'll have a ta-da moment. There's my block, my points. Now it's very important. Oh, that one's off a little bit. That's okay. It's very important. I'm going to set this seam, and then spray it, and then press that where it wants to go. And for me, it wants to go onto the inside there to lay nice and flat. So I'm going to just set the seam, all of them here, because I didn't iron them. Just going to set that like that, lovely. Come back and do the exact same thing here. Each unit was pressed, but press it really well. And then I'm going to tuck that right in. I'm going to push that up because my flying geese want to go that way. So I'm going to hit this with a little bit of spray. And then I'm just with the tip of my iron, I'm just going to nudge that up flat. Now that one I didn't do real good, and I'm not bothered. It's fine. So I'm just going to nudge this up nice and flat. That corner didn't match, that's okay. Like that. And then come back on myself, do the exact same thing. Just going to nudge that towards the center. Because there's a lot of bulk on these flying geese, and I feel if you push them back on themselves, they're not going to lay as flat. So for this block, I've pushed everything into the center. It makes a pretty star. So there you go. My back pretty much looks as good as my front. And I will see if I have a ta-da moment here. I may or may not. Isn't that funny how that's the exact same block, but boy, doesn't it look different. It's so funny that. It's just slightly big. So I'm just going to cut off these, just straighten it up and cut off the dog ears. Tidy it all up nice and tidy. And the two sides, I do the, ooh, the sun just went in. Got dark in here. Just tidy that right up like that. And like that. And there. It's amazing, that little bit of shred there. There, though, other than that point, is my lovely, lovely block. Block number 12. Makes a pretty star. So again, you can see contrast. What a difference the fabric makes, right? So there are my instructions. Oops, I'll put my little bit of glue because you could get confused here. So again, my flying geese are 4 1/4 and 2 3/8. Not, isn't that amazing what a quarter of an inch does? Not 4 1/2 and 2 7/8, because look at that. They were too big. They were way big. But I'm keeping that anyway. I got 3 lovely blocks. But again, this is block number 12. And that's my block and my ta-da moment. I hope you've enjoyed this, folks. This was fun to make. Lovely, pretty star it made. Only with a high contrast. All right, folks. Have a lovely day. Love from the Trueloves. Bye-bye.